Huzzah! Hello, everyone. I is back. I is back to doing stuff and things. Man, it was a really crazy last week, so good to be back. We are going to continue the 30 Days Lost in Space franchise. Tonight, we are working on day 27, which, from layman's perspective, looks like it builds on the previous day 26, which is cool. We've covered a lot of different concepts with the different switches and dials and displays. There is no more new hardware. I know I've mentioned this before, but there's no more new hardware in the kit. So we're going to be building off of the previous day. And it looks like we're going to be adding some additional hardware to this. So I haven't unplugged anything, but we're going to hop into it and then see what we can break. This one is labeled as the Hero Autopilot Execute Part number 2. So we're going to hop into this and get going. I'm gonna let at least some of this play, just to see where we're at here.
Good morning, Star Voyager.
Ring, ring.
Another cosmic day awaits us.
Perhaps.
Yesterday, we journeyed through the wonders of bitmaps, navigating the constellations of pixels. Today, we shift our trajectory slightly, venturing into the realm of binary counters.
Okay.
Imagine it as laying the foundation for understanding the binary language of the universe. Using our trusty dip switch, we're going to construct a 3-bit binary counter. This is a pivotal step before we launch into the challenging task of mending our docking gear. Ready to play with some switches and send signals across the vastness of our ship's systems?
As long as I get to keep
Let's
my
light up the
eyebrows,
binary
yes.
stars. I want you to think of each of our switches as an individual bit. Since we have 3 switches, that means for today's calculator, we will have a total
Wait, I
of
don't
3
have
bits.
eyebrows. I guess we'll have to
When
draw
all
them on.
3 are off, we can think of it as representing 0, 0, 0. When all 3 are on, we can think of it as representing 1, 1, 1. But you haven't learned how to count in binary yet, have you?
I have.
All right, deep breath, Explorer. Let's set our sights
not
on
that
my
hard.
personal favorite way to represent numbers, binary. In fact, by definition, it's the only method I use. Think of binary
It's also a thing
as
that happens in
language that can
networking. It's
only
called
use
subnetting.
1 and 0. With our 3 switches, we have 3 positions, like 3 light bulbs in a row. Farthest to the left represents the largest value, and farthest to the right is the smallest. Each of
Indeed.
these light bulbs can be either off low, signified by a 0, or on high, signified by a 1. Starting from the rightmost bulb, the first bulb represents the number 1. The next one to its left stands for the number 2, and the leftmost one symbolizes the number 4. Now, if only the rightmost bulb is on, your number is 1. If the 2 bulbs on the left are on and the rightmost is off, your binary reads 1, 1, 0, which translates to 4 plus 2 plus 0 equals 6 in our usual decimal counting.
Math.
With me so far? Great.
Yep.
Now, we're going to map this cosmic dance of numbers to visual imagery. Depending on the binary sequence our switches spell out, we'll display a distinct bitmap. It's a smart way to confirm that all our switches are in tip-top shape, functioning flawlessly. After all, imagine the anticlimax, surmounting all challenges only to falter on our final descent due to a landing gear glitch. Let's not be the comet that
needs
dazzles in the sky but
wheels?
disintegrates upon landing.
Yeah, it would be bad.
Safety always orbits first.
Uh-huh.
For today's code, we will need a way
Safety
to
is
display
indeed
a total
important.
of 8
I would agree.
groups.
I
So
would
that
agree.
means we will need to do the following.
Okay.
First, set up our hardware for the OLED and define inputs for dip switches, etc.
All right, makes sense.
Second, make a total of 8 bitmaps. Luckily for you, I've already done that. So don't
Appreciate
worry
it.
about making your own unless you really want to.
No.
And
No, I've
third,
had enough trouble
write
with
the
that.
function to be able to calculate which of the 8 bitmaps maps we are going to be displaying.
All right, cool.
This will technically be 0 through 7.
I wonder if we're going to be switching statements
good
today.
Programmers prefer to start at 0.
Truth.
Let's think about that a little bit further. We will have a total of 8 different cases.
Okay.
Case 1, where
Sure.
all are off. Case 2, where switch 1 is on and 2 and 3 are off. Case 3, where 1 and 2 are on, but 3 is off, etc., all the way to case 8, where all 3 are flipped on. There are a couple different ways we can do this.
Yes, there are. I'm going to pause that for a brief moment. So 1 is everything off. I know that she said we're going to start at 0, but I would rather her have called this case 0 and this case 7, because that's going to cause a little bit of confusion with the way this works. But yeah, if that's 1... Strange. I probably would have did this differently. I don't like the way that she cycles through this, because if you're working from right to left, from smallest being on this side, the largest being on this side, then the second case should have been the first switch. I don't know why case 4 is which is the first. That's so weird. I don't know why we're doing it that way. Alright, we're just gonna let her talk.
Maybe the good old if statement? I think this is okay for now. However, if we had more than 3 digits to deal with, I'm sure you could see how this could get messy quickly.
No kidding.
Worry not, Explorer. I've gathered some instructional material that should help alleviate any sense of uncertainty you may have.
We're gonna use switching statements, right? Right? Please say yes.
Take a look.
Hello, and welcome back to day
Hi, Alex.
20.
Bye, Alex. Okay, yeah, we're just gonna dive into this because I'm thoroughly perplexed as to what our code is going to look like. So that is what we're going to do. Okay, so as I had briefly mentioned, we're building off of what we had before. So for those of you who were around here last time we were toying with just the OLED display, which is this one in the lower right-hand corner of our breadboard, which is the whiteboard that we have the components connected to. We are adding additional things. We're going to be adding a switch pack and also the 7-segment display. Again, we've used these in previous exercises, but now we're going to morph them and add them into this and build off of that. Ooh, learning indeed. Hello there. Yes. We're going to be toying around with a Arduino, also known as a hero board, with 30 Days in Space franchise. And we already pre-wired our lovely handy-dandy display. It has been. Hopefully you're well. I'm going to get us started here by getting a new project open for today's exercise. Since Arduino does the Arduino thing, it's going to open up the previous week's exercise, but that's okay. I've caused enough brain pain with trying to do this part myself. I'm good. We're gonna go and do a new one. Alright. And this one is going to be day 27. It's going to blink here. More windows flashing. Okay, cool. So we have our initial framework for where to dump our code. All right, first things first, I'm going to take a moment here and I am going to get this hooked up to match the diagram, and then we're going to dive into the code. Let's see here. Okay. Gonna stick to CAD. Hey, more power to you. I've seen, and I know a couple people who are a fan of CAD, and all the more power to you, because to me that stuff is kind of Greek. But at no point do we not want to continue the learning. Do you have any plans of doing anything fun or silly with it. No, that's not necessarily the first thing most people think of when it comes to developmental software. But as you can see from what I'm presenting, far from the average fit when it comes to that. Well, let me zoom the camera out here. I'm a little too close. Wait, what happened? Activity feed. Oh no, it's so small. I can't see it. I don't know what happened. Oh bugger. I. Hang on, where's my activity feed? No, I'm scrolling backwards. I don't know what happened. Well, I guess I'll continue. By zooming out the camera the rest of the way. I saw something briefly pop up on my screen. If someone could tell me in chat what I just missed, I'd appreciate that. Also, welcome on in, Thunder. Oh, breadboard. Yes, I am bringing the brain pain for everybody involved here. And I've also brought some hot tea with me as well, to help suffer through the pain. Oh! The heck? I don't know why I didn't see that on my overlay. Thank you! Thank you, King. Appreciate that. I hate it when I miss something like that. That's the problem with, like, I'm over here and the stuff was over there. Yet I have you on chat to my right. It's the gig. I can only be looking 17 places at once. You know how it is. All right, so we got our little switch pack, and we've got some resistors I need to fish out that are going to make it so this functions correctly. We have the display, and then, okay, let me see what I'm fishing out here. Looks like we are using 3 220 ohm resistors. And that is a pretty common theme that we have around here, because that is going to be our pull-down resistor in an effort to sink any remaining voltage down to ground. And why would we want to do that? Well, we would want to do that because when we're trying to read whether our switch is in the on or off position, any lingering voltage on the other side of the switch when the connection is open would be bad, because it might give us a false reading, and then we're not necessarily sure of whether we're engaged or not. So by sinking that voltage that's just kind of lingering on the other side of the switch down to ground, that makes sure that we're not going to screw anything up in a reading of our values. As we are working with 5 volts DC with this little guy. Oh hell yeah, that's a whole bunch of fun. Full size for your Orange Pi 5 Plus. Are you going to try to do one of those things where you like have multiple Pis working together? Because I have seen some of those stacking cases where you can slot like 4 or 5 Pis into like this, almost like a server array rack. It's very small, of course. Where you kind of just use them together to cook up all sorts of havoc. I didn't put this out. I did not. All right, hang on. We're going to verify some connections here. No cluster. Okay. It's okay though. Doesn't have to be a cluster. I've never made a cluster of them. I've only ever worked with them individually. As you can see here, stuff like this is kind of a bit of enough at times until you kind of get those fundamentals baked in, and then you're off to the races. All right, we need to make sure the display didn't move. I doubt we would have moved any of these leads, but I'm going to double check. Source clock and the SOA, which is the data lines, is A4 and 5. Yes, those did not move. So then these 2 lines here are exactly where we left them, which is beauteous. I've ever seen the Omega 1000 Plus. It's a sidecar. You know what? I can't picture it in my head, but I've heard that name before. I'm gonna say probably yes, but I can't recall it off the top of my head. Which I don't know if that's arguably better or worse than just not saying a period, but that's my story and I'm sticking to it. All right, we need to get this
this dude hooked in here. So we need to get our VCC and ground, which are the bottom leads. VCC is the white wire, and then ground is the black. So you, my friend, are going to go into 5 volts. You go into the grounding rail. Oh, nice. Yeah, I mean, hey, the world is constantly in a stage of needing more storage. I ended up getting together my own NAS myself because I was just so sick of running out of hard drive space. So, yay for an array. Make sure if you're going to build your own NAS that you have drives that are NAS compatible. One of the things with hard drives, as you may or may not know, is that there is I think it's a CSR and SCR. One of them is where the data is shingled, and then the other one is they're all separate records. The NAS rated drives are the ones that don't overlap the data, which in a NAS environment you don't want that. Let's see here. Funny enough, the enclosure I got myself set up with for my NAS actually has specific hard drives that it requires me to use, so that out of the box you can't screw it up, because it'll straight up tell you, no, I don't accept that, take this out of me. Like, okay, got it, noted. Let's see here. All right, clock is going to pin number 3. Clock is the top wire, which is brown. And then our other one is going to number 2. All right, so let's see here now. So we got 0, 1, 2, 3. And then this one goes to 2. Okay, so far we've got connections between the separate sides of the breadboard, which 2 of these wires are feeding voltage and ground, and then the other 2 is for the source clock and the actual data. That way that we can actually pulse our information to then tell this display what to show on it. And that's going to be controlled through pins 3 and 2. 3 is a PWM pin, which means it's got pulse width modulation. If we do anything that involves controlling LEDs, you require one of the pins to have pulse width modulation, which is easy enough to tell by looking at the board because it's got the little squiggly line next to the pin to indicate briefly that's what you're dealing with. So it's a good visual reminder, but you also have to remember that little tidbit in your noodle if you're hooking this kind of stuff up. And not forget that, especially if you're going to make your own custom project. Now let me see here. We're going to cook this up into pins. Let's see. We'll do 14, 15, and 16. I'm going to very carefully connect our resistors to ground. Yes. All right, so that'll be the bottom here, which will be 14, 15, and 16. And I'm going to try my best for them to not touch each other so that we don't have a short in the setup. That's the only thing about breadboarding is that if you know what is getting plugged in where, that's great, but some of these wires end up really, really, really close to each other. 14, 15, and 16. We'll just bend these back a little bit here so that we're not touching. And naturally, this is the first thing to think of if you've already compiled your code and something's not lighting up. Make sure it's firmly seated in the breadboard. It's really easy for one of these little guys to come loose, and then you're driving yourself crazy and pulling your hair out because something's not lighting up, it's not turning on. That's because something's loose. Ask me how I know that. Been there, done that. It's a fun time. Another side plan, a 70 style server rack, few mini PCs, small home lab. PDP-11. I don't know what a PDP-11 is, but I can say a 70s style server rack makes me think of the the graying plastics of the Windows 95 boxes, which I'm sure that's probably not quite the aesthetic you're going for, but that's what I think of when it comes to old school server setup. But then again, I guess that's not really server equipment, that's more of old workstation that comes to mind. But then again, I'm thinking something that's more of like late 80s, early 90s. Nor here nor there. What is a PDP-11? I don't recognize that. 14, 15, and 16. Attempt to get these connected. Pretty please. All right, cool. So I got that there, and then these are going to get attached to 5 volts. And then I have to connect the probing so that we can read these values, because as it stands right now, 5 volts will come in, go through the top of the switch pack, and then just return to ground, but we want to read the switch state, so I have to actually then hook up probes on this side, the lower side of the switch pack, to read the position. So I need 3 more jumper wires, and I think that's everything, schematic-wise. Oh, that's the name of a computer from the 70s. Roger, roger. Hey, there's nothing wrong with that, Thunder. That's why I like doing this stuff. I mean, you know, it's fun to watch, and in my opinion, more fun to hook up, which is why we're here. But yeah. Out of curiosity, Thunder, have you ever made anything in the tinkering space? Because I can admit, this is a lot of fun. It's also headache-inducing, but what hobby isn't? Let's see here. I need to get this 14, 15, and 16. I'm gonna get it. I'm gonna try to get it. Oh, these are tiny. There we go. Okay. 14, 15, 16, got it. And then programming and computer hardware. Oh, okay. So it's like some of the ideas of like lighting up LEDs and like chasing sequences, kind of like that, like old school. What movie am I thinking of? It's the super fancy sports car that had like the red lights that would bounce back and forth across the display. Let me see here. All right. Light gray and yellow. We're analoging this? Interesting. I could have sworn we would read the switch pack with digital inputs before in previous exercises. I wonder if that doesn't matter. Maybe it doesn't. Or maybe I'm just misremembering. It has been a little while since I played with the switch pack. No, I lie, because I did it with the first exercise. Huh. Nor here nor there. JavaScript, SQL, HTML, C++, and C#. Oh, noes. I had some fun with C++. Being that it's an object-oriented programming language, I always felt like it kind of made sense out of some of the languages I've looked at. I mean, HTML is just fun to play with, but then when you attach a style sheet with CSS, then there's a small amount of losing your mind, especially if something doesn't indent correctly or content running away. So, yeah, it's fun though. You forgot most. See, you don't forget them, Thunder. You just put them in a jar, right? And you probably don't want to open the jar. You know, that's fair. I haven't touched C++ in a long time, and I'm gonna be real with you. Unless I have to, I'm not going to. I'm good. I prefer to stick with PowerShell and Batch. Those are the two I'm really more common with playing with. Wouldn't be the first or the last time I've gotten myself in a little bit of silliness with that. Okay, so these are actually just right on the top. So we need analog 0, 1, and 2 for these to be hooked into. Read these pins. So I'm going to go ahead and plug these in right away. And then I'm going to make sure these are firmly seated, because a loose cable is a SAD cable, and a SAD cable equates to a SAD technician, and I don't really want to be with that either. Okay, cool. Those are firmly seated. Mighty fine. Okay, so I have not cleared the previous code from the previous day on here, but since everything else is additional, it's not going to bother anything for me to hook this up now. So we're going to see the previous item load up on our display here, and then let me get our camera realigned so we can actually see some of this a little closer. We're not there yet, but I just want to get ourselves in frame here a little bit better. I'm going to bring us in a bit here, and then we'll scoot this down so we could see that. Okay, that gives us a little bit of a better view of everything. Yeah, all right, I'll leave that there. So then I always position the switch pack where I can't get to it. It's in the middle of the board. Listen, I never said it was smart. at some point, maybe I'll put it where I can reach it. Maybe next time. Certainly won't be this time. All right, let me toss these headphones on. All right, cool beans. And let's get ourselves. Let's see. I want that one. Haha, there we go. All right, cool. That's good. Nope, that's a lot of words. Hang on, let me get caught up here. Building a PDP-11 with period accurate parts. Interesting. So the ending of the project will have the 44 M floppies, the top of the line supercomputer at the time. Or M flops, right? Not M floppies, M flops. I like it, Thunder, that you mentioned that you slept through some of the networking stuff. Listen, networking can be easy, and it can also be a nightmare, and it's really no in between. Because if you have to break a subnet on a byte boundary, it can get icky in a hurry. But naturally, we're not doing this too often, right? I myself personally haven't toyed around too much with SQL. Like, I understand the statements and using like dynamic PHP to like write stuff on the fly, but I also know that security is incredibly important, and giving the internet direct access to run SQL statements out in the buck wild is a really bad idea. So I don't build websites because I already know I would injure myself in fantastic fashion. I'd need to learn a lot more before I toy with that kind of stuff. It is fun though to see it in action though. Late 80s, early 90s hard drives. Oh, like the jittery kind with the PATA interface or IDE, depending on which flavor of wording you'd use there. See, I love the chittery chattery sounds they'd make. The all the little buzzing and chattering. Wait, hang on. Are we also talking about the kind of hard drives that would also have the rubber boot over them? Please tell me you remember those, because having a rubberized hard drive for some reason always felt like it was more robust, even though this couldn't be further from the truth. But their whole selling point on the rubber boot on the hard drive was to reduce vibration. But for any of you who know how to install a hard drive, it's held in with screws into a metal bracket. So the rubber never did anything. It just made you feel better. I personally like the look of the rubber boot. I'm a little sad they don't do that anymore. But again, what is this but nothing less of a selling tactic? At least to me it is.
You're not wrong. Windows installing for days. Yeah, that's fair. All right, let's see what kind of injury I can cause myself this evening in this space. All right, so interestingly enough, it's not too terribly long this time. And in an effort to not miss any braces, since the code's gotten a little longer, I'm just gonna bring it over in whole. Because when I don't do that, I usually miss something. So we're gonna do a quick verification, and look at that, I blew it up already. That's cool. What did I do? Ooh, I think we're involving a new library. Well, let us read. Because when you grab the code and it immediately dies, that usually means something's not there. Alright, let's see what we're upset about. I saw that one red line down there. You know, Thunder, it's funny because I did actually have one class where we had to type everything, like line for line. And then, like, after I finished the class, I found out that all the exercises that were in the book were available online. So I'm like, you know what, it's fine. I'm better hands-on anyway, but I'm like, of course I didn't have to type it all, but I did. I don't even remember what programming language that was. That's terrible. I should remember that. It's okay. I got the concepts. That's what mattered, right? I can't say I blame you. Paper exams? No, code belongs in a terminal, okay? Where, more importantly, you can hit the tab button to help autocomplete something you already know what you need to type. Like in PowerShell, how there is like 17 different ways to get a directory listing, okay? I should be able to use ls to get a listing, or get child item. Either one works. Ugh. The standard to metric by heart for engineering classes. Well, yes, I mean, so, okay, so I have my own reservations on learning, right? Because for me, it's all of the mind that you don't want to be in a position where you have to Google literally every aspect of what you are doing, okay? That means you don't know enough yet. But you need to have enough of an understanding of what you're getting into to be able to build off of that and then look up the stuff you don't know. Right? So that it's an ongoing learning experience. Because at no point in this life do we stop learning, right? It just changes forms. You know, there's the idea of structured school, like high school and college, or trade programs, where you go and either you pay money or it's public access, right? And you learn a specific thing, right? Or it's, you know, geared towards a certain activity. But in the world, we're always learning all the time. Things keep changing all the time. Not to mention for the services that we log into when they change something and then don't tell us where they moved that setting to that you need. Yes, that company, you know who you are. It's most of them, but you get the point. Learning never stops. And this is no different. Foot's in the tents. Oh no. Alrighty, let me figure out what we're missing here. I wanna see what we can break. Let's see here. All right, so we always use the Arduino class. We have to include it every time, or the library, excuse me, because we're working with the Arduino hardware. If it's not there, we can't control the board or anything connects to it. So that's there. And then our libraries for the UHG2 and the I2C communication protocol, or the wire protocol, is how we can play with the OLED display. We need both of these together to control that. So that's the same as last time. It's an abomination. Well, I mean, Just because it's there doesn't mean you necessarily have to like it, but you do have to play nice, especially if it's something that you have to toy around with. Yeah, it's the gig. Let's see here. And then we have the name of our lander display, which is nice. I use both. I use the empirical and metric system. It all depends on what I'm working with. If it's 3D printing, it's metric every day of the week. If I'm driving down the road, it's miles per hour, okay? If I'm trying to figure out how hot or cold it is outside, generally it's empirical, but sometimes it's Celsius. You use both. It's okay to use both. Some make more sense to others though, because if you're trying to figure out how thick a piece of plywood is, you don't want to have to measure it in like hundreds of thousands of millimeters. Maybe a few inches or a few feet isn't such a bad thing after all. I mean, there is centimeters though, and meters. I don't know. They all have their places. The important part is you know your unit, okay? Because if you have to convert one to the other and you don't know what you're working with, bad things are going to happen. That's how there was a lander that crashed into a planet very far away from here, because the folks that were controlling it from the ground didn't match units, and it went poof on the I was gonna say the lunar face, but I don't remember which planet we sent that craft to. All I know is it was really far away, it was a whole bunch of money, and because of a simple mathematical calculation, it went boof on the surface of the planet. So again, if nothing else, make sure you know your units. Oh, it's a mistake from Lockheed. I always thought it was a mix-up between metric and the empirical system. Right. It was a miscommunication between the two. Well, point being, your unit is important. Still, though. Wasn't Boeing the one that had the door fly off the plane? I mean, all the screws do need to be tightened on the plane for it to stay in the sky, but I'm getting horribly sidetracked. Let me push this forward. Oh god. All right, what am I doing here? What was missing? What was missing here? So, ugh. All right, let's see here. I have to actually read this and see what we're missing here. Yesterday we showed a way to move our larger bitmap declaration so that our setup and loop code was neater, right? Because we pushed that bitmap towards the bottom, which we called it just at a later time and declared it earlier. That's fine. We can simply move our declarations and just take them, move them somewhere else. Listen, for my SpongeBob fans, that's straight up legit. Oh, to one or more files. Oh, that's what we got going on here. And they include them at the top of our sketch before we reference them. To create a new file, simply click the dots. Enter the name of the new file and click the tab to add it. This lets us move all of our bitmaps into a separate file so we don't have to scroll through them. So this is a declaration on an external file? Switch bitmaps. I don't feel like that is though. Switch bitmaps, no file or directory. I feel like it's supposed to be a separate file though. No such file or directory. Yeah. Only plane to be grounded by President Trump. Roger, Roger. Well. Air travel's a very fickle thing. Switch bitmaps. Alright, let me go back over to here. Oh, let's see here. So, oh, I didn't scroll down. Don't forget your required bitmaps. Really? Yeah, I feel like that's kind of important. Well, we're talking about having, yeah, switch underscore bitmaps. Be sure to keep in same folder as the main sketch. Okay, that's handy. Let's do that. So we're gonna nab that name. And then we're gonna make a new sketch. Now, this is where we're going to run into a little bit of trouble because I don't want this to be a separate project, and the project always has to match the name of the folder. Let me reread this to make sure I do this right. New tab, enter the name for the file. Yeah, see, I did it the wrong way. And then click the tab to edit. So 3 dots, new tab. We're gonna call it that.
Just wait for the tone.
And then save that. So if we look in the file folder, we should actually see ha! Okay, so that is the right way to do it. If I did it the way I was gonna do it, that would have been bad because it would have made a new file outside of this directory and called it switch underscore bitmaps as the folder name, because the main project sketch has to match the folder name on Windows. It will straight up bark at you if it's not like that when you open the program. It'll straight up rename the folder it's sitting in. It's a very particular thing. So then we're going to, with nothing else up my sleeve, copy all these bitmaps. Okay, well that's definitely a lot more lines of code. Yes it is, because we know bitmaps take up a lot of visual space because they're ginormous. All right, so now when I verify the code, no more red, right? Did I miss something? Fatal error. So let's just move a bit to separate files so we don't scroll through them. It's .ino .not.-h for the include on that. Interesting.
Sorry for the text block. Boeing even tried to cover it up. It's because the model of plane Boeing made was upgraded with far bigger engines that changed the plane enough that they should have had to.
Okay, well that's good to note. I appreciate the TTS on that. That's chunky. Let's see. Now this, hang on. Let me restart the project. Yeah, it's on line 64 here. See that little bit of red that we have here? It's barking at us that the file's not present. And I don't know if there's a way other than just restarting the compiler to just let it know it's there. Like a way to refresh the sources that the project's looking at. Let me just do that. Let me close out, and then I'm gonna minimize. I'm gonna go back into the Arduino IDE, which should reopen up the project, and maybe it'll find it. All right, now let me hit verify again. Nope, it's still upset with me. So it still can't find it. Interesting. Yes, we are. This is a dedicated machine that this is running on. So by all means, if I need to, I can reboot it and we'll still be here. Blah, 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 blah. All right, well, I'll bite. I'm going to let Alex talk a little bit more to us here. and we're going to see if I'm missing something, because there doesn't really make a lot of sense for me to bang my head on my monitor when I can have the guided exercise give us a little additional guidance. I want to say Arduino is written in the C language. Let me double check that. Oh, fancy that. It is based on C++. So ironically, I said earlier that I didn't bother writing in it again, and I have been this entire time. That's hysterical. I know nothing. I don't know what I'm doing. I mean, granted, it still like felt object oriented, so that actually makes some decent enough sense. All right, let me see if I could jump us through here to what we're missing.
7 of the 30 Days Lost in Space Adventure Kit code explanation. A little bit easier to read. We're going to put everything, all of our bitmaps that we've created, and you can go New Tab, and you can create the new name for the file. You'll notice right here, it says include switch_bitmaps.h, spelled exactly that way with the underscore.
Wait, do I need to do the H? Damn it!
If you create it and you don't name it the right thing, you will get a compilation issue. So you can click OK.
All right.
And then obviously, now that you have this, you can then copy.
See, if I obviously followed the directions, it would work. Yeah, well. Yeah, no. Who needs to do that? It's a guided example, right? It's terrible. All right, hang on. Let me actually fix that. I think I can get away with just closing this tab. Maybe I can't. Ooh, rename. Ah, there we go. Even better. And verify. Big money, no Emmys. Hey, listen, I know it needs to be exact, okay? I thought the .h stood for something different, but apparently not. That's quite a literal. That .h has got to mean something. All right, well now it verifies, which means it's all here. No, I want to know now. No, we're gonna look that up because there's .ino, which is what the main project file is. What on earth does the .h stand for? Arduino. Survey says it's the job of the linker. The .h files are simply a heads up for the linker. First, your CPP files compile to the object in the compiler. Hang on, the rest of the article is loading. Blah, 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 blah. Using C or C++, the compiler needs to know a function exists. What it returns type is the parameter it needs to be passed before it can be used in the program. In this sketch, you do this either by defining the whole function before its function call, usually it's the start. Well, yes, I understand that, but what does the H stand for? Oh, here it is. The job of the linker in H files are simply a header to the linker. Heads up for the linker. Words. I'll try to use them. First, your CPP files compile to the object in the compiler. Once the match between a definition and the object is found, the linker picks up on the relationship and links to it. Links can happen across one or more objects, and where the objects are located is irrelevant so long as it's eventually found. Don't have CPP files linked. Most commercial libraries simply come with .h prototype files or a .o for an object. Okay, so it seems that it's the way that it actually informs the compiler that it's a thing. Yep, yeah, there you go. There you go, Thunder. You got it. You're heading certainly in the right direction. I'm heading in the general direction of falling off of whatever I'm sitting on. It's okay. That's why I've got something to. I got arms on this chair. Coding will push you off on occasion. See, you may not have used it in a while, but you still remember stuff and things. Nothing wrong with that. It's funny what random stuff will come back to you though when you haven't touched it in forever. Usually it's the stuff that was a really pain in the butt to learn, and like it feels like you're pulling teeth out of your head, and then that's the stuff you remember. Oh, it's terrible. Some of that stuff will, I'd say stay with you, but it's more like it haunts you for the rest of your life. But it's a good kind of haunting because it's educational. Coding is haunted to begin with, so you know what, it's like Destiny 2. It's the moon is still haunted. Truth be told. Oh, okay, now that I've unbricked myself by actually following the directions, let's wander through the rest of this. all right, yes, so we included the file and it's over here. Right, okay, so for those of you that did not see bitmaps last time, let me show you a little bit about what we're actually doing here. A bitmap is a image broken into machine language. This is the machine language that informs the compiler of all the right pixels to turn on and off to draw our image. That's all this is. And as you can tell, they're hefty and chunky. So obviously, having to scroll through what's like 300-ish lines. Still scrolling. That was about right. 314, including the closing brace, would be a lot of noise to have to sift through, right? But by including these, we have our switch segments. Basically, we're going to call on each picture using the code on the previous screen. And this is going to be a unsigned char, which makes up the position. The name of the variable is switches_6, which means we're going to pull this variable, which is full of all of the right things to turn on and off to make our pretty picture. No, they're not color codes. You're right. It's hexadecimal. Because hexadecimal is more compact. And actually, what I can't show you, because if this does behave, I think it behaved last time. If we take our, like one of these, for example, right? And I copy the hexadecimal code, should be able to drop that back into here. And then read as, I think, a horizontal. Nope, that's broken. Let's read it as a vertical. Still broken. That's fine. Let's see here. My scaling is original. I forgot to change the aspect ratio. Oh no, it's already set to 28 by 64. That's the amount of pixels we have on our pretty little display. Let's see here. Yeah, see, the code input though is Arduino code. That's what it was. But that's not an option. That's not quite the same thing. Well, the general consensus, I had a lot of trouble with this tool the last time I tried to use it. It's an open source tool that is provided by... Is their name on the page somewhere? There's their GitHub repository. You can send them donations through there. I wonder if I put the bits down here, if that'd make a difference. Let me try this backwards. Clear the box out. Can I go the other way? Nope, doesn't like that. My gasp! We have a Dragoness. Hello, Raiders. I am TechHead41. Welcome on in. I am here melting our brains, playing with Arduino code. Aha! The code rollers have appeared in a cloud of glitter to boop me. Oh no, I've been booped. Oh no. Oh no, I've had it. I've been had. You know how long it's going to take me to get this glitter out of this visor? It's going to take a very long time. Welcome on in, everyone. What were you guys up to? Were you doing stuff and things of the gaming variety? Were we chatting? Were we working on the fursuit? What were we doing? We're probably doing something cool. Dragonus is always doing something cool. Straight up. There we go. I'm getting better at spelling your username. Ooh, Minecraft. That's a bunch of fun. We are doing the heckin' space thing. You got it. And in fantastic fashion, I still don't know how to use this tool to read the pretty picture that is sitting over here. Which it's okay though, because we have our display. We're gonna get there. We're gonna make the pretty picture appear once we get through this mess called code. Oh, good lord. I mean, all fairness, Thunder, if you want to get back into coding and make some cool stuff, why not? There's a lot of cool stuff that happens in the Unity space. Causes a lot of brain pain, but you know, that's how it is. Can I hit tab to autofill names? That's a good question. Well, fancy that. I learned something new. Thank you, Dragon. I didn't know the tab key actually worked in there for the commands. I have stuff set up, but Lord knows I don't even know how to use it. Love that. Oh, good lord. True, it does allow you to code. I mean, if you want to have a really bad time, you can also do some Blender work. And I'm not talking about the stuff you use to make smoothies. I'm talking about the program that works with three-dimensional objects and generally sadness and a lot of coffee. I know some really fantastic beings that really know how to use that stuff. And I have to say, it is fantastic to watch them in action. For someone who knows how to use that kind of stuff, it's just fascinating. Oh, hell yeah. You model in Blender? Cool. Do you work on like avatar work or like making objects, games assets? What kind of things you toying with there? Tanks and guns. Hey, well, it's still things to toy with. I know plenty of people who play the what the heck is that tank game? World of Tanks. There's that one, but there's another one. It's more of like a Soviet tank game. That's another online MMO style thing. Not optimized for games. Listen, I don't know what three-dimensional object is actually optimized for games, including avatars for VR chat. They're a fantastic example of the lack of optimization in a lot of cases. But that doesn't make it not fun. It makes it not so fun for the person on the other end, though. It's almost been 14 years. That's fair. I feel like RuneScape falls into a similar bucket sitting next to World of Tanks. That one was a long time ago now. I want to say like what was that, like 2008, 2009 RuneScape? Remember correctly? Like in the early on days of doing stuff and things on this thing we call the internet. I know, I'm terrible with time. Six One says, hey, Thunder, that's why we take all the fancy object shapes and we smooth it a little bit, remove some of the lines and the polygons. Or at least so we try. I've made the fantastic mistake of going into Fusion 360 and selecting all faces on a very complex object. That was a fantastic way to eat up 64 gigs of RAM and crash my computer. Don't recommend it. All right, let me see. We're right here. Okay, all right. So let me get this brain child moving here. All right, so we got over here a bunch of pretty pictures that don't look very pretty yet. And we just figured out that I need to include the .h for this program to find the file because I mistyped it. Technically, I just didn't finish it. Okay, and then from here, we're going to create a bucket of pointers. Switch 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. Interesting. Haven't touched Blender in years. That's kind of how Blender is, though. It's always there. It's always waiting. Okay, so we have our different cases for our different switches. And then, let's see here. Oh, you know what? I bet you the 7th segment display is just to indicate visually, like, which picture we're showing from position 0 through 7. And then the picture will show up on the display. That makes sense to me. I didn't watch the rest of the walkthrough video, but that would make a lot of sense as to why we've plugged that in for today. Couldn't make anything organic. I mean, what's not the fun of adding a lawn chair on top of a tank? You know, they're both existing assets. Then again, there's also the donut and the silly tutorials that make that up too. But hey, that's part of the fun. That's what we're here for. All right, so we got our display, we got our pins. I hopefully plug them in the right place. And then we're going to, bitmap number display. That makes perfect sense as to what we're doing. It's exactly what I thought we were doing. All right, and then let's see here. So define pins for our dip switches. We'll need almost all the pins for day 29. So here we show that we can use analog pins as digital pins when necessary. Okay, so I'm not gaslighting myself. We were normally plugging these into digital pins, but we have plugged them into the analog ones. Okay, now I feel a little better about myself because I kind of felt like we hadn't plugged them in down here before. So we have them, and then switch for bit 0, 1, and 2 of our 3-bit value, which is fine. And then we're going to do a little initial setup where we turn on the serial terminal, which I don't think we're going to... we might show some stuff in there. I don't know, we'll see. Most of this seems to be either on the pretty picture or the several segment display, also known as the 7-segment display. Nor here nor there. Alright, so we have our brightness set to maximum capacity. Like any phone that's ever been handed to you that's not your own, and you're wondering how they look at the phone being that ungodfully bright. Yes, we're going to do the same thing here, but we're doing it for cosmetic purposes, so we can see what we're looking at. Alright, we're going to clear the display in case there's anything in the buffer, and then we're going to configure our dip switch pins. So switch bit 0, 1, and 2 is going to do bit 0, 1, and 2. Okay, so this is where we're right. So we're declaring the switch as inputs because we want to read which position the switch is in. It's either going to be on or off, and our switch pack has 3 positions. What exactly are we building? Well, what we're building is supposedly, like, the whole concept of this 30 days in space, like, guided exercise is that we're on our lunar craft and we just got ourselves off of the foreign planet. We're working our way home, and the theory here is that we're doing our quote-unquote systems check by being able to check through the different systems. Now, what that means in the context of the exercise is that we're setting up the different configurations to be able to check our systems by changing the switches to the 7 different position combinations we have to show the different picture, or to check on that specific system, as it would be with the exercise. So that's kind of the theory behind this. Because I mean, like in some of the previous days, we had things like time to fix the battery. There is no battery with this kit. There are no capacitors with this kit. It's more of a in theory kind of thing. Yeah, there you go. And that's just kind of, what we're running with. And honestly, I like it because it gives a little bit of story, but it also kind of helps you kind of build a little bit of a narrative in your own head on like things that you can potentially do with something like this, you know, to apply it in a more practical sense. Some of these were a little far-fetched, especially like a battery without a battery. That was a little funky, but nor here nor there. But yeah, so we then tell that we need input pins. We then begin the lander display. And then let's see what we're doing here. So calculate our X and Y offsets for our bitmap graphics. So we're going to figure out our X and Y position for our cursor. And then we're going to get the width and height of the display. The width, I think we set up here. Maybe we didn't. Right. Well, it knows by the class of what we included is it's 128 by 64, which is that technically declared up here? I know there's okay, so there's this. It must know because I mean the name of the declaration that this uses to make the object that allows us to use the display is literally called 128 by 64. That's the amount of pixels that are in the height and width of the display that we're working with, and we can control each individual pixel because there's 128 across the bottom and we're 64 tall. That's the theory behind that. But the thing is that this is what I find so unbelievably challenging about the displays, though, is that you can't just throw an image on it. You have to actually tell the display the cursor, or tell the program where the cursor is. Kind of like when you're typing on the keyboard. You position your mouse, that cursor, in the code where you want to type, and then you go ham and you clickety clack on your keyboard, and then the stuff appears where you want it to be. Yeah, I would agree, Thunder. I'm pretty sure that's just because it's a class definition, because there are different classes for using different displays with Arduino, and a part of that is what makes up the size of the display you're toying with. But it's a bit of a challenge because you have to calculate where you're positioned. And in this case, we're dividing by 2 to find the smack dab middle of the display. Yeah, exactly. All right, so let's get a little brain pain going here. Now we build up a 3-bit binary number by reading each of our switches, ensuring that the read value is 1 for on and 0 for off, using the ternary notation, and then shifting each bit to its desired location. This converts our 3 switches to the values of 0 through 7, 0 being all off and 7 being all on. And then we can see that here in the notation. So 0 is all off, 1, and then there's 2, 3, 4, so on to 5, 6. Now, interestingly enough, 7 is only 2 on. Why is it not 3? 2, 3, 4. I'm stupid. I'm being stupid, right? Yeah, that's 5, and then that's 4 and 2, that's 6. That would be 1. See, then that would be 3. That's a binary 3, that's not 7. Not gonna lie, I'm a little confused by that, which... Yeah. No, I am totally not being gaslit right now. That's the same. It might be a typo, because that definitely ain't no 7. Because that would be 1, that would be... I don't want to change it just yet. We're going to keep a sharp eye on what the rest of this code looks like, because I did pick up on a typo in one of the previous exercises where the pin declarations were incorrect. And then I just worked up a correction and shot it over to the developers via their support email, just so they were aware of it, so they could fix the exercise. Because I remember it was either the code that was incorrect or the diagram that you looked at was incorrect. One or the other, they didn't match. Right, because that would be 6, 7 would be all 3. Well, I guess I will change it. I know that's what it's supposed to be, but we'll have to keep a sharp eye on whether that last position's even going to be available. But that's okay. We can check over here. Right, that's literally called switches to 7. And up here it's called switches to 7. So we do at least have the right variable name to then pull the bitmap out of this file to get access to this. We'll have to see how the code logic flows. That might have been a really simple typo. That's probably all it is. Now, granted, that's a typo in the comment section. Comments are not compiled, so when it looks like this off gray color, the compiler ignores anything that's gray colored because it's a comment. So this is just for our understanding, visual understanding of what we're doing here. That's all this is for. All right, let's dig into this. So read bit 0. Ensure 0 or 1 in save. And then we're going to read the pin. And then we're going to determine whether it is in the high position or low. True is high and low is false. We've seen this style of notation before. Normally you get the concept of an if statement. And it's usually, if true, do this, else do this kind of thing. Well, the colon here, high, the question mark, and then 1. This is just a compact notation of an if statement to make this all fit on one line. And then from there, ensure 0 or 1, shift left 1 bit and or into its current value. Looks too much like Java. Yeah, you're telling me. Hey, at least you get to look away. I can't. I'm stuck in my coding terminal here. Let's see here. All right, so we're gonna switch value. We're then gonna check the other 2 bits, bit 1 and 2, which checks all 3 positions. And then display the calculated switch value on our 4-digit display. Now we can see here right now that we're going to take the value of the variable called switch value, which it's declared here on the first line. It's a byte in size, and then it's called switch underscore value. And then we do the thing called a bit shift by moving the bits out to then get the correct reading of the 3 switches into one variable. That's why it was called a bit shift, because we're reading individual bits inside of a single variable. So by reading the position of all 3 switches, we then shift it in the variable to kind of wedge all that information into the variable, and then we just read what's in it. That's basically what we're accomplishing by doing that, but I could surely tell you it's a little ugly to read, but it is a very compact way of getting that information into the system. I can tell you right now, by looking at shift registers, I've seen this kind of notation before. I have not presented shift registers on this channel. At some point I'm going to. Because I've toyed with shift out registers. Shift in registers, I need to do some more research, because that's shifting in the in direction, and that allows you to take multiple input sources and combine them into less physical pins on your board. If it sounds complicated, that's because it kind of is. It's very difficult to explain that further in easier terms when I myself struggle with the concept, at least for right now. I know in the future it will probably become easier once I've used it, a few times, but right now it just feels like a magical hat, and I'm just kind of dumping stuff into it for the time being. Hound? It's a hound! Hello! Hello, raiders! Oh my. The doggo raid. Like, guess, what kind of mead did you bring for chat? I hope you have enough to share. Tell me, Hound, what were you guys up to in the grand scheme of things? Look at me using my new keyboard shortcut wisdom brought to me by Dragon. Returning to stream and playing some Metaphor. That sounds like it's more metaphorical than it probably should be, but I'm okay with this. Well, good. I'm glad. I hope you had some fun. It's all mighty fine, mighty fine. And here, melting everybody's brains, including my own. We're gonna present some pretty pictures on the lovely equipment we have sitting here on the bench. We're getting there. We're almost there. We're not there just yet, but in time, in time. Well, for those of you who don't know me, I'm TechHead41. I toy with technology, and I also play retro games here on the channel. So sit back, expect for a lot of very crazy things to appear here on the screen that make little sense to both of us, because that's coding in a nutshell. Your brain's good, Thunder. I'm good. I'm glad I haven't fried you yet. Terrible. It's fun though. I mean, so far it reads okay. I am happy that they at least gave us the opportunity to like have the mechanism to make our own pretty pictures, even though I still don't quite understand what I did wrong. It's part of the learning process. Oh, it's terrible, but it's fun. All right, so we've wedged everything we need into our switch value. So for now, from here, what we're going to do is we're then going to turn that binary number into a normal decimal number, right? Because if we have a binary challenge accepted, alls. Challenge accepted. Hello, welcome on in. But yeah, if we have a bit shift here of like say all ones, like all three switches are on, then we want to show that as an actual decimal 7 on our display. So what this actually does here, show num decimal EX, will actually just draw the number. We don't have to tell the seven segment display which segments to turn on or off. We just call the class and it just says, okay, you want a 7? I'm gonna draw a 7. And then that'll call upon the class to draw the pretty picture. We're gonna get to that though, that code's a little further down here. There's a few commands you don't remember ever seeing or never covered. Understand what they do. Fair. And that's the one thing I do like about working with Arduino IDE, is that a lot of this does feel self-explanatory, even if you don't have the comments to back it up, trying to explain to you what the code does. Now granted, that doesn't mean don't write good code. Always write good code. Make sure to include comments, because future you will appreciate past you. I can tell you this from experience, from someone who's had to debug their own code. It helps when you leave yourself breadcrumbs on what you were thinking, because future you won't be thinking like past you. It's a promise and a threat. It's a little bit of both. But that's coding in a nutshell. I don't think that has to do with the class. The fact that it's a byte is just the size of the value, because a byte variable can hold a value between 0 up to 255. Anything bigger than 255 then needs to be stored into a double, which can hold more, a larger number. And then if you have to go with decimals with, or numbers with decimal places, then I believe that one is a long, I think is when you use the long. Char is this stuff. It's yeah, no, I get what you're getting at. It's, see, actually, well, here, let me hover over that. Display a decimal number with a dot control. Display the given argument as a decimal number. The dots between the digits or colon can be individually controlled. That parameter number, the number to be shown. For displays with the dot between, we have a colon in our display, so ours looks like a clock. And then let's see here. And then that's the public call on the display. Yeah, there you go. Yeah, see, that's the thing I like about this. If you're not really sure what a part of a function is, you can hover over this. And it actually gives you the tooltips of, like, that's the class, that's what it's for, and then that's the sub function that's tied to the class, and a little bit about it. It may not outright tell you what you need, but it does have enough information in it that might at least push you in the right direction, which I like. I like that a lot. I like code that can tell me what it's trying to accomplish, especially when I don't know what I'm trying to accomplish. I like hints. Hints are good. I also like leaving myself hints. Future me appreciates those. Let's see here. All right, we're actually almost near the bottom. So we've gotten to the point where we're going to show on the several segment display, and then from here we're going to then display our selected bitmap on our OLED display, or OLED. And then, so this is where things get a little tricky. When you're drawing pictures on the OLED display, the concept of the way we display them is in pages. So you'll show the first page, you'll delay a set amount of time, and then you'll rotate to the next page. Think of it like a book. Even though it's a physical piece of hardware, think of it like a book. You're just flipping through the pages, and then once you've gotten to the bottom of all your pages, your code can either cycle back to the top and just keep cycling through the pages, or once you've hit the bottom, you can stop. But that's the way that you switch through those different things. And then from there, we always show the first one outside of the do loop. Yeah, exactly. That's exactly what's happening. It's frame by frame. That kind of like the flip books that you used to doodle up on as, let's say, like a kid, and you have the little stick figure running across the screen. It's kind of like the same thing, except in a more digital format. And then from here, our draw X bitmap BMP displays each bitmap centered in the display based on its size. So then let's see if there's any goodies or nuggets in here. Nothing really useful, just the parameters that it accepts. So then we have our offset of the X and Y, which we did a little math up at the top to figure out where the middle of the screen was by taking the height and the width and divided by 2 to find the pixel that's in the middle of the display. That slaps our cursor slap dab in the middle. We then can figure out from the offset our width, our height, and then we just tell it which bitmap to feed it, which is based on our switch value. And then from there, we then go to the next page. Now this particular function has no ending, which means that once we turn it on, we can change the switch value, but it's going to just cycle through the different pictures endlessly as we toggle the switches on and off. And then we're going to give ourselves a delay of 100 milliseconds or 1 full second to see what's on the display before we check the position of the switches again. We've got 3 switches. Every second we're going to confirm that they haven't changed. If they've changed, we want to change what's on the display. But that's what we're going to do now. So if I've got everything where it's supposed to be, I think I put our switches... Yes, no. Yeah, we're in the off position. Okay, I am going to click the magical button of upload here. Upload. Nothing up my sleeve. It's a good thing because I'm not wearing sleeves and metal and fuzz. Uploading, uploading, done uploading. Okay, cool. All right, so we're in the 0 position. I see nothing on the lander display. Let's check and see if something is supposed to happen in position 0. I think the answer is no. Switch 0. Switch 0 program. No, there is definitely supposed to be something on that display right now. Okay, that's fine. This is the part where we're going to troubleshoot the wiring and make sure I've got everything firmly seated. Since this is an OLED display, there is no concept of a backlight because it's a bunch of individual pixels, and the pixels are either on or off. So if we're supposed to be seeing something right now, we don't have to worry about any kind of backlight because there isn't one. It's just the pixels being on or off. So let me switch this back over to here, and then I'm going to pull up my diagram and double check the wiring. Is my guess something's probably loose. All right. No, the other thing I didn't check, I thought I verified it. Maybe I didn't. Was the source clock and data lines on the display, which was supposed to be 4 and 5. And they are in there. I don't know if they're firmly seated enough, but we're going to find out. I'm going to restart our friend here by reseating the cable. Aha! So what I did is I reseated the USB cable on the laptop side. That was out of frame for you guys though. Okay, cool. So we have actually a little graphic of our switches in their actual physical position. Oh, hang on. Let me bring you over here. There we go. Okay, I can see you guys now. Okay, so now I am going to use something pointy. Yeah, I could use this. A SIM card removal tool. This will help me push these around, but I just have to be careful not to short anything out. So I'm going to attempt to do this so that we can see what we're doing here. So I want to push. Technically, switch 1 is the far left, so let me actually bump that up. Okay, so that is the 4th position. As we had mentioned, because we're counting in binary, so that's the furthest to the left, which means 1 technically is on the right. So let me push that back down, and we're going to push up our 1 position, which is good. That actually lines up with the madness, right? And then 2 would be turning off the first one and turning on the center. Because we're counting in binary, and there we go. Because that's 2, right? And then 3 would be having the 2 end on, right? So now we're in 3, and our switch position is quote unquote changed, right? Now, as you already saw, because I already flipped that configuration for 4, I'm going to turn off the 2 outer and turn on the furthermost switch. That counts us to 4. And then to get 5, you're probably already going to figure this out. We're going to include the switch on the end. That's the next binary number, which gets us 5. And then a little bit of repeating as I do some basic math here. The 2 most left is 6, which then leaves us the last position of position 7, which would then be all of them on together, which counts us through binary of 0 through 7. Questions, concerns? Visually, does that make sense? Fair. That's fair. I like asking that question because I do realize I am throwing a lot in the general direction of my camera. The thing that I like about this is that we had the concept of this being a ship, right? And this is our switches for our different system checks.
I'm doing air quotes, and I'm zoomed in here. And these are 7 different conditions through 3 physical switches, right? So you can technically control 7 different things with 3 physical pieces of hardware to move around. Why does that matter, and what does that actually mean to someone who's toying with this kind of stuff, right? Well, that could mean several different things. The first thing that puts us into is different things we can control, right? Say that this Arduino is hooked up to several relays, right? Well, then we could actually physically control motors, lights, and we could check different sensors based on our switch input. Say we wanted to see how much light was in the room via a photoresistor, right? Get the value of the room, and we wanted to check that only when we had the switch in the right position to check it, and then get that number to display on our 7-segment display to get an idea of how dark a room is, right? We can gather information and we can control things in the real world, but having the right programming logic, in this case, just showed us the different positions in binary. You're kind of cheating since I do have a bit of background in programming. Well, you know, well, still, right? This still gives us the mechanism, though, to be able to control things in the real world. The cool thing that I've found through my limited research, because frankly, it's going to happen at some point, I just need more time to do research. The protogen heads that are built by various people in the community, ironically, is Arduino based. I know I've said it on previous streams, but it's kind of convenient because I've been learning on this myself. But that gives, you know, a world of versatility on what you could do with that. Say you wanted, you know, a button press, you know, say on like a wireless remote to show a specific face, right? We just controlled a set of 2 different screens based on a couple of different switch positions, right? So by baking in some wireless remotes, or based on certain environment variables, say like how dark a room is, right? You can, in theory, build all sorts of crazy stuff into that face based on just those external inputs. Like the first thing that comes to mind to me is how bright your face is on a protogen based on how bright the room is, right? Or better yet, have your ears move to certain inputs. Say a loud noise causes them to perk up or drop down. Exactly, Thunder. See, look at that. You're thinking before I could even get it out of my face. See, he says you're paying attention. It's good. It's good. Oh, I thought. Oh boy, love that. What kind of things are we cooking up, Thunder? I like that the music stopped when I asked that. But it's cool. It's cool. There's a lot of really fun things we can do with the Arduino suite. I've seen a lot of different crazy projects. Ironically, a fair amount of them around plants and checking pH values and making sure that, you know, the soil is as it should be. But I do know that you can control external inputs. I mean, sure, the board itself works on 5 volts, but with a relay, you control much higher voltages. Because you can control 120 volts just fine at, I'm trying to think what amperage normally those relays support. I want to say they support 10 amps of 10 amps of power at 120 volts, I believe. Actually, they're usually 120 to 240. I don't know, I've looked at them before because there's a lot of different hardware you can like buy to work with the Arduinos. But you can actually control like bigger stuff with these integrated electronics, because no, you're not going to shove 120 volts in several amps through a tiny little board the size of a credit card. That's a really good way to lose your eyebrows. That's why these kits are so cool, because there's so much fun you can have with them.
that. View deals. Could have an internal screen. Have 2 buttons to scroll through emotes. So you know what you're about to select. Have the reset of the buttons or ear positions, probably emotes. Yeah, okay, I can see that. That was one thing I was debating, if I wanted to have different faces controlled via remote control. The ear thing, though, I think is a lot of fun, but that's something that whatever the first iteration of a proto head, it's not going to have that, but I can promise there's going to be more than one of these, because I know that after I make one, I'm probably going to want to make another one. Kind of like how the Suitor telephone keeps remaking telephone, but the core concepts of the character have stayed a lot the same. Bumped into telephone this year at Anthrocon. Absolute delight to meet in person. But just that idea of expanding as you learn, right? I want to do that. That's fun. Oh my goodness, no, not face tracking, please. Oh god, I have enough trouble getting this hand tracking and face tracking to function. I don't even want to think about trying to shove this kind of technology in a head. But who knows? Maybe future techie will actually know enough about this stuff to actually do something like that. But that's okay though, because the whole concept of this, the whole concept of this channel is learning. I do like doing the retro stuff in the gaming, but I like mixing the two together because I love the learning stuff. There's an insane amount of goofy things you can do with it. Nor here nor there. But yeah, but we're getting there though. We finished day 27, which is awesome. So then that leaves us left 3 more days in this franchise. And then the crafting tables 3 days in space will be done. We're not done with Arduino by a long shot, I can't tell you that. Having way too much fun with this to not do that, but this was a fantastic way to break into using this kind of stuff and playing with, I know, sensors and screens I've never toyed with before. Really good place to jump here. Fans integrated. Oh, there's definitely going to be fans. See, I gotta be careful. I want to make sure that I have enough power to like power a proto head, but at the same time also not cause myself to go up and smoke. Well, here, do I have them? Yeah, I still have them behind me. Let me grab one of my previous projects here. I'm gonna have to zoom the camera out to show this. Because on this channel, we didn't go through the entire process of building it or designing, like from design through the full like start to finish of the process. But this is the pronoun board that I made, and ironically, it uses, surprise, surprise, that same switch pack that we have in the 30 Days in Space. I designed this board and built it here on stream. Shield your eyes is a little bright, but the first position is the letters H, E, and he, and then positions 1 and 2 get she, and then we turn off position 2 and enable position 3, and then we get a very bright they. And this was the very first concept of making something with a lithium-ion battery. Now a little bit of a cheat here, because a couple things. LEDs are a light-emitting diode. Diode means electricity only flows in one direction. I also have 3 diodes at the top here that also protect each individual string of LEDs from a reverse battery condition. Because if I put this battery in backwards, technically the entire project is protected from start to finish because every LED is technically protecting itself. But I protected each item from voltage flowing backwards and damaging the project based on having these diodes. These ones just don't light up, but in concept they're very similar to each individual LED that makes up this project. There is no oh no, it's not engraved. Hang on, I think I have some non-built ones over here. Yeah, okay, cool. So I do actually still have some of the ones that I didn't build
or excuse me, not assembled. There we go. So that is a non-constructed board. So went through the process of designing the layout and the traces for this project, and then built it here on stream. What this is currently sitting in, though, is a 3D design and printed tray, because the back is really pointy, and I didn't want to stab myself or others, especially if folks were going to look at this up close, which was the idea. I want to take the concepts of the 30 days in space and the knowledge that I've gained from doing this to make something cool. This was so much fun and terrible at the same time, because I did screw this up a little bit. I messed up the silk screen layer for the H and the E on here. You have to install the LEDs technically backwards for them to work correctly, because the polarity's wrong on the silk screen, so you just have to turn it around and stick it in. Yes. So what I did is I don't know if I have that in a way I can present it right now. For those of you that are curious about how that came into existence, let me find the program name, because I don't believe I have that. Let me see here. I have to turn on my desktop icons to see what the heck the name of the program is called. That's the name of it, EXE EDA Pro. They have two versions of the software. They have the online version that you don't install, and then there's all the installed desktop application. I did it in the installed desktop application because the tutorials I found, used it. So I figured, why make my life more difficult? And I put into the schematic all the pieces, and then from there, I sent it to production. The minimum quantity is 5 boards, and they at least make sure that the design you submitted is electrically correct, but as a logical mistake, like I did with the LEDs and the H and the E, they don't do anything to fix that kind of stuff. Like, they're not going to tell you that you misconnected a trace. That's on you to make sure you got it right before you submit it for production. The lead time was about 2 weeks, though, so it actually didn't take that long to get the boards to them and back to me, from start to finish. And the nice thing, though, is that the program's free. The only thing you pay for is the actual production. They do have support too. I didn't have to use it though. But that's open source stuff. And the other thing too that I found really cool about that is that they also have a community platform, so that you can actually find other people's projects that they've submitted and published on their website. So if you actually want to get your hands on like someone else's project and build it yourself, you could buy the board and build it. They also have services that you could pay for to actually have them build it on your behalf. I don't know how well that would work, only because I'm super new to this, so I don't know how that would look. But I knew that if I could buy the parts and I could buy the boards, I could figure out the rest. I can solder. And I plan on doing the same thing with the Proto Head. I know the base of it is going to be based on a guide, and then I'm going to bake into it whatever I can fit to make it my own. Again, going to take a decent amount of research. As you can see, there's a decent amount of learning just to get through these exercises. But that's the idea. You start small, you build on it, and you make more stuff. So on and so forth. Ear control will be a super fun time. I very much want that. I just know that that's not going to be in the first iteration. I want to be able to complete it sometime this century. But you're definitely right. Ear control is definitely a thing I want in a future version.
But for 1.0, it's definitely going to be a want for the future. Who knows? I'm also not that great at 3D design, but electrical design with this stuff, I'm getting there. I'm getting there. It's a process. It's so much fun though. It's like anything else though. You have to make time for this kind of stuff. You know, you're not going to just find time. You have to make it. And if you want to make something cool, then you take the time to learn it. So that's my my 2 cents of peace on that, on the subject. And I know there's going to be more making stuff because it's fun. I love it when a tab runs away on me there. Alrighty, cool. Yeah. So, for those of you who popped in here, hey Cyberlord / Blaze, hello. Yeah, all is indeed well. We're cooking with fuel this evening. We got to actually do some fun stuff here tonight. I have had quite a few raids. Very much appreciate all of the beans that have popped in here. For those of you who are first time seeing me, if you want to see more of this, drop a follow. And my schedule, I am a Wednesday streamer. I start around 6:30 to 7 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time. That's pretty rigid for a schedule for me. Every once in a great blue moon, I might throw an extra random day in there, but it's usually pretty consistent. If I do have a stream cancellation, I usually put that out on my Blue Sky account. I'm the same thing, TechHead41 out there as well. And you can find my links down in the description for any of you that want that information. So yeah, that sorts that out. Self promo and plugs and information, this, that, and the other thing. Yes, I do remember that I exist on the internet. But yes, for any of you who are actually interested in that nonsense that I put out, that's where you'll find it. The process of redesigning your Sona. Ooh, a visor. Okay. Hey, that's okay, Blaze. You forgot it. You forgot about Wednesdays. It's okay. It's a reminder to everybody who's in chat and also myself, because that's when I'm here. Yee, absolutely old. Appreciate you popping in here. You also, how was your previous stream? Did you slay the creature? I was so tired. I don't even remember what you were playing. I basically popped into your chat to say I'm going to bed, but I saw you were on and I at least wanted to say hello. Let's see here. Let me see who's on here this evening. Gears 3. Okay. All right. Beautiful. Oh no. I can't tell anybody to go to bed because I also do things and stuff when it comes to sleeping, and that's questionable times. Well, with that, I am going to wander us all over to another protogen that likes to have a lot of fun here on the internet, that goes by Blake. And Blake, what was Blake doing, or is actively doing? VR chat is what Blake is up to at the current moment. Blake is a fun bean. High energy, a lot of fun to spend time with, and I think we'll all go over there to say hello. Thank you all for those that stuck around, popped on in. You help make this a lot of fun for me as well, in the midst of all the silliness I like to put out here on good old Twitch. So with that, I should be back for this upcoming Wednesday. We'll figure out what we're gonna do. Whether that be a game or more technology, we'll figure it out. With that, I wish you all a fantastic time zone. Bye bye.